I created an example saying that if you are given a word, we need to say, so the letter is like vowel or consonant. That's what we need to say. So we need to get the letter from the runtime and we need to check whether the letter is vowel or consonant. That is our main purpose. If I need to create a small program in a practical fashion, how do we get the letter? Say like I take a letter, say to get the things in runtime, we need to use the input built-in function. So input built-in function by default takes as a string. Anyhow, we are expecting a character only. Then fine, no problem. So within that, we can mention that, hey, we want the value. And based upon our previous experiences, what we have seen is that, so we can write something like this. And also we have seen when we are getting the input from runtime, as a best practice, we do a strip also. If any white space is extra added also, it should be removed. So this is what we learned. Now, after learning this thing, so we need to say whether it is a vowel or consonant. What if user gives apart from vowel or consonant something else? So that also we need to handle, right? So first we need to take what are the characters taken and we need to print it as it is. How to open the terminal? This is how you open a new terminal. And as it's a .py file, we need to execute it. To execute it, we need to go to this terminal path or like you need to give the entire path. So either way, I have gone to the directory and I'm executing it. It is asking a character, I gave J, fine. If I give one more character, if I say 8, 8 is in fact not a vowel nor a consonant. It is something out of it. So when I'm thinking, first and foremost is, I should check whether the character is alphanumeric or not. If not, we should say there itself it's an issue, right? So for that we can say that there is something called as letter dot, as it is a string, we have something called as alnum. Hope you remember alpha. So alphabet we need means if it is a capital or lower alphabet, it will take yes. If not, it will say wrong. So for everything we can ask how to get this information in a print statement itself. We can write. If I execute right now, if I say J again, for J it is saying true. Whereas if I say capital H, it will say true. But if I say same 8 again, it will say false. So we can say like there itself, if it is false, then you want to say like, it is so and so. How to write a condition? If this is true, you want to get it. If not, see this one, you see, means if it is not an alphabet, then we can say that. So letter is not an alphabet. Letter is not an alphabet. So like this we have written. If not, then in the else condition it will come down. After checking this, we also need to check one more thing. What if the user has given something else? So pass is like for temporarily writing something. I will tell you afterwards. Let me clear the screen again. If I execute, okay, if I say A, it will say W is fine. So if I say 5 is, it is saying false, that's fine. What if I give 2 characters? For 2 characters also, alphabet will give true. But that is also not needed, right? So we need to write the other condition. Elif. So letter, as it's a string, we need to check the length. If length is greater than 1 or like not equal to 1. So either way, okay. If it is not equal to 1, means user has given nothing or like less than that also. So invalid input. So invalid input. Is invalid input. Okay. So it all depends upon which condition you want to first in the process. So the most, generally when you are working, so the most common occurring we can place in the start. So if you want this condition to be first, we can write in that way, write that condition. And for the second conditions, we can write elif. Of course, sometimes these are related. That's the reason we are writing. I will show other examples also where multiple if conditions are not dependent on each other. But in this case, they were dependent. First, I will check the character length. If it is not equal to 1, then I don't want. It's an invalid input. If it is valid, then is it alphabet? Yes, then it will come down. Then after coming down, then I need to do my operation. So what I need to do is like, I need to check whether my character is present in any of these things. Hope you remember, if it is a, oval means I need to check what? Whether it is A, E, I, O, U. If I have like, word which is of thing, you see, typically I need to check for any of these things. If you want to check for something in any of these things, we have a beautiful concept called as membership check. Membership check. So this is called as membership check. In operator, sorry. In is a membership check. Operator. So if this condition we need to say, if letter in so and so, then we need to identify it and work on it. If it is so and so, then we can say this letter is oval. If not, we can say that letter is so consonant, right? So this is what I want to do. If I do like this, okay, so not sure. Okay, sure, fine. So we have like multiple if conditions like this. And in this case, it's working. It's a very simple example to be frank. If I execute right now, if I give like W, yes, W, it has gone. So W, it is saying what? It is an alphabet. So letter, it is saying like alphabet. It is checking each of these conditions. So after checking this condition, it should go down. If the letter is W, it will go inside and do it. So means like it is checking. So is not alphabet. Oh, it's an alphabet, right? Sorry. Okay, elif, sorry. I need to go in the other side. Yes, that's my mistake. I forgot that else case. So if I execute right now, the same W, yes. So what is the mistake I did earlier? I forgot that else condition. If this is not right and this is not right, so finally it should go down, right? That's what I did. Then it will come here. Within this if condition also there are two. So then it is showing so. Hope it's clear. So this is how we do like any of the tests. A condition within the other condition. So if you have like multiple places where the same condition is there twice or thrice, we can go in much better ways. So or like if you want to do in a much better way, how we can do? Okay, this in operation is fine. You are checking for something like this. So it's working. So can we do these things much better means? Instead of you checking for all the values, we can check with less number of values. Ultimately, you want to check this letter is present in any of these things or not. One optimization I would do is like the same thing I do. Instead of checking for the entire characters, I do convert my letter to a lowercase. And within that I am checking only the lowercase characters. So this is also correct way. If you execute W, it's fine. Did you see I didn't do this conversion outside? I am doing this conversion only within the operation. Means only for this operation it is lower. After that it is upper only. If it is so. So like this I can do optimization. Or if I can do further more optimization, I can do the other way also. It doesn't mean that every time we should have a list. We can have even a string also. So within a string, the same A, E, I, O, U. Basically, in operator expects the other one to be a iterable. Iterable means anything on which you can apply for loop. So next we will see about the for loop. Then you will understand much better. So within the less amount of code, how better to reuse the strategy? That's where I am trying to help you understand. This is a very simple example for you to learn. So where I am showing this. If I go ahead with some more better logic. So let me take one more example. This time I go with something called as Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. Celsius and Fahrenheit are two temperatures, right? So temperature units for the same thing. So let's say user has given a temperature. So in a Celsius, so we need to take the user temperature and so we need to convert to Fahrenheit. So there is a formula for doing this. If you go for anywhere like you for the Celsius to Fahrenheit, so you can get the formula outside. So how the conversion metric happens. So based upon that, you can do the same formula. So based upon those things, we can do. First, I have taken the value. It will be in a string, but Celsius means it's a temperature. It will be floating point value. So I converted to a float. Then there is a formula for this thing. I used it. Hope you know the concept of PEMDAS. Based upon that, I did this also. Now, based upon these values, so I finally converted and I have this both Celsius and temperature. If I convert and I print it, I say like whatever I've given, I am just executing it. If I have 23, Celsius 23, Fahrenheit 73. It's good, right? So instead of printing all of them separately, what I can do, I can print both the things in a single place. So within the single for loop itself, I can do. So you know the concept of multi-line strings. Instead of doing both, I can do like this also. And what is the difference between this prints and other prints? That did you see after colon within the F string, I wrote like 5.2 means 5 digits should be reserved, but post decimal there should be only 2 digits. If I give the same 23 right now, did you see how things are happening? So it is like a presentation of the things in a much better way. That's it. And also using the F string assignments, the same thing we can better represent using F string assignments also, right? So just to show you, same 23 if I give. So using F string assignments also we do like this. So we need to write equal. After equal, we need to give the format in F string assignments. And also, if you do some more advantages, we can do some functions also we can apply, like a round function I told. So instead of making the string formatting, you can work with a round function, which itself gives the values in accordance. So there are like a maturity in terms of things. And one thing I want to bring to your notice about this round function is, so we already worked on this round function. If I go to the interactive mode, see interactive mode, I told like if you do just Python also, you go to interactive mode. Similarly, if you use like pip install IPython, I have done already. So if you do that, so there will be one command called as IPython. Same like Python, IPython is another interactive mode. So what are you are seeing in a Jupyter notebook? So before that, this one came. But as it cannot persistent the data, so that's where Jupyter notebook is there. So, but this works like a charm. If I have like a number, say like now I want to analyze round, right? So round is a certain thing that if you give any number or so and so, it will try to round off. If I say like 12.34, it is trying to round off. So if I give like any big number also, it tries to round off. Means if I don't give any option, by default, it is trying to convert to an integer. But apart from this number, we can specify a number of digits also. If you do anything means post decimal you want something. Even if you give like 0 also, post decimal you want. Means if you don't give any option, by default it will give an integer. But if you give any option, it will give a floating point value. So based upon what you give, those many values it gives. If I give 3, post decimal 3. If I give 5, post decimal 5. If I give 7, post decimal 7, like that. If I need to implement the same thing, so here in my program, so we can do the same thing. So what we can do is that it's a simple program to show you. So I am doing a range of 0 through 9 with a step of 1. Means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 till 8. So for each of the value, I am printing this one. Now, if you execute it, if I give the same 23, did you see what happened? So of course, the value should be there. If the value itself is not there, it makes no sense. If the value is there enough, so then it can help you like that. So maybe like, if I take like import math, so Fahrenheit is equal to math.py. Assume that I am doing math.py, pi value, right? So pi value is like 3, something big number is there. So if I do like something, you can see. So 5 digits are reserved. So, sorry, here 10 digits were reserved. So like that you are getting. So every time you are doing like 0, 1, 2, 3, so and so. So if you are doing like 0 digits, 1 digit, 2 digits, 3 digits, 4 digit, like that things are happening. Hope it's clear. Fine. Apart from this, so the last thing to give to an assignment, this is one of the interesting question. So with this, we can stop this one. We have done this conversion. One smart idea within this temperature conversion is, okay, in the previous example, I have given you the Celsius and asked you to convert to the Fahrenheit. But this time, I will not tell like whether it is Celsius or Fahrenheit. I will give something, but we should, automatically think and do it. So how to do that kind of things? So if you want to do like that, so it's very interesting. Say if we are given like 23.6 C, okay, you understand that it is a Celsius and convert it to what are is Fahrenheit. If I see 23 F, it is a Fahrenheit, you do it. So if the user gives like 23 C like this C or F or with space, any of these things user can give. Then automatically I need to detect that it is a Celsius and I need to convert to Fahrenheit. So don't you think it's something very interesting? So we have the formula for converting to Celsius or Fahrenheit, but first we should know what is the number, what user is giving. So to address this, what is the best way? Based upon our previous experiences, what we learned? Okay, user can give small c or capital C, small f or capital F. So means how to handle it. Or sometimes user don't even give C or F. In that case, you can defaultly assume that it is a Celsius. So to understand that, first we need to take the input. And you don't want to handle like a small c, capital C separately. You want to take something. So maybe like you are fixing to the, uppercase you are going. And also the best practice of strip to avoid any unnecessary things. So till now it is clear. So first, if the user is giving the, 23C, 23F like that. So when it is a string, if there is a C, obviously I can check the character whether C is present in the temperature or not. So if C is present, then obviously I can calculate, I can take whatever is given is like a thing. Means if I check this answer, you will understand. If I print it, you can see that. If I execute it, so Python F so and so, if I say like 23F or 23C, it is saying true, means like it is there. So if it is there, then I need to convert. If 23 in so and so, then what our user has given, that is a Celsius. So Celsius is equal to this temperature. So temperature is like 23C. I cannot convert 23C to directly, right? I need to remove the 23C. The C we need to remove. So then I need to strip the character called as C at the end. I should not go for small c. Whether I have small c or capital C, I should go for capital C only because I am doing to uppercase. So after doing this thing, and if there are any potential white spaces around, so I need to remove that also. So, and after that, it is a ordinary string. I need to convert to a floating point value. I convert it to floating point value, and then I need to do the Fahrenheit calculation. Fahrenheit means like is equal to so and so. So this is what I have done. So let's try this once. If I execute again, 23C, you got like, so you entered 23 so and so. Okay, we converted, but we didn't print yet. So maybe I am using these values to print it down. So I am doing this down. If I execute right now, you will notice that 23C means you got the value clearly. What if user is giving like 23 space C? So 23 space C is also fine. We are able to handle because the white spaces it is taking. So it is stripping the things. So finally you got Celsius something and the Fahrenheit something. It's good. So 23C is fine. So 23 two spaces C something. Okay. So anything it is handling as it found C. So we cannot say like C23. So that is not correct, right? Okay. C23 is not a correct thing. So that's okay. But still in that case also it is handling. So fine, right? Very smart enough. Next, in the same fashion, let's go for Fahrenheit. So if it says CM23, F, it is saying that I don't know what is Celsius because you didn't define. Okay, in the same line, we need to define the other one. If there is a C, will there be F? No, right? So both are interdependent. If both are independent, then we can say separate F. As both are interdependent, we can say like this. So it is a common sense for anyone to understand. So in the same lines of what we have done for the other one, we can do this here. We did like a Fahrenheit conversion. First we took the F, stripped it. So floating point value, you got the Celsius. So both the things. So finally, we got the values like so and so. We can say like, so 23 F itself, you got the value. Say some so and so F, very big number, but like you got it. So whatsoever you have it, you got the value. Okay, now you did a very positive case. We need to handle the negative cases also, right? Where user didn't give the things properly. So I told that when user gave like just 23 also we should handle. Sorry. When he gave 23 also we should handle. So as user didn't give anything, so there is no C or so and so F. In the else case, we need to think of so having this appending this string. So we can do that. So we can take the strip, temperature dot strip, and we can check whether it is a digit or not. If it is a digit, then we can work on it. If not, we need to come out of it. So if you see in this case, what I'm doing, I'm stripping the thing and I'm checking the temperature. Is it a digit or not? First of all, it's a number or not. If it is a valid number, same 23, then I'm executing, thinking it as Celsius, and I'm doing the operation. Though I don't have, I just copy pasted the same thing. What if the user has given something, say something like a question, exclamation. So exclamation is not a number, so not an alphabet. It's not a proper thing, right? If user gives that kind of input, then it is an invalid input. When you got an invalid input, you cannot process further. You want to stop there itself. If you want to stop there, so first we will print that it is a hey, it is a invalid input, and we use a new module called as sys. Till now, I made use of sys for different purposes. For the first time, I'm using for another purpose. Sys.exit of 1 means abnormally you are terminating the program. You cannot go further. If I give like a question mark, it is saying what? Invalid input, and the program was terminated. If I don't give this option, what will happen? It will execute the next steps. So if you see the example again, it is executing the next steps, and you got the error at line 39. But if I give this, so the entire program will be terminated. Sometimes intentionally you want to terminate, sometimes unintentionally also you want to terminate. So in those cases, you can make use of it. So similarly, one assignment for you for today is that, so this is the electricity bill generation. This is very, very interesting opportunity. So just give it a try. You will understand a lot. Generally, electricity bill happens based upon the slabs from 0 to 160. So some units. So 60 to 100 something, 100 to so and so like that. So if a user particularly has consumed like 357 units, so how many things we need to do? So this is a very interesting program. If you understood this, you will understand a lot of concepts. So, okay, if I can start with, so how to get this value in runtime? So we need to use the input function and get the values in runtime, right? The units consumed is equal to, and we need to convert to float. And the best practice using strip and converting to float. After getting, so if the user is giving a number which is less than the needed, then what is the point? So it is an invalid input. And again, we can make use of the previous thing what we have learned, sys module. So to terminate, sys.exit of 1. Sir, why this 1? Why not 0? So in a computing language, so uh, any execution will happen with a 0 or 1 exit. This is a general practice. It is not mandatory, but this is how things work. If something is coming with 1 as output, it is abnormal termination. Means unfortunately it happened so, or like something happened bad like that. If something is executing with 0, so means by intentionally it was done. So assume that today you have a Facebook request, you have a program daily to go to your Facebook requests and approve all the requests. So suddenly today you didn't get any requests. Then what is that you're going to do? You need not do anything, right? So in that case, you softly exit. So because there is nothing work to be done. So like that we can go. So okay. Um, so you created a program. So initially you are doing a validation checks. In sometimes invalidations you want to do first itself. Sometimes invalidations in the last. Based upon the logic, things will change. But I am explaining you how to do this concept of coding altogether. Okay, so you got fed up the invalid data. So you got the valid data right now. So every time in this program, the problem is like this. You got like 375 means you need to calculate for 60 values this much. So for 40 values this much, 50 so and so. It is not like a single value calculation. So we need to check if you are anywhere, you need to check for the previous slabs also. If you are into the 150 band, 150, so these three bands you need to check. Means whoever you are, from the top you need to check till the down. So as this is like this, so we need to check like this. If the units are greater than 250, that is different, right? So as this condition will exist there itself, so I can write here itself. If unit consumed is greater than 250, so then we want to do something. How many slab units were consumed? So for to make a note of all the units which are consumed, first we need to have one variable to know like how many units were consumed. So we will create a variable called as remaining units is equal to units consumed. So every time the local slab units, how many units were consumed, to understand that. So we can have like, slab units minus this 250. If it is greater than 250, so means you want to calculate only for the units which are greater than 250. So we need to do like this. So beyond 250, what are the units are there? That units I am doing. So, and for that we need to calculate the amount. So what is the amount? So here it was mentioned that the units is 10. So I can write that a amount is equal to like this. So how many units I got, how much amount I got. So then I can print what are the slab units for this. So for this units, how much is there? I will print it. Units consumed and slab rate. And after that, what will be the remaining units? In the total units, I need to subtract the remaining units, right? So if I subtract the remaining units, I get like this. So beyond 250, you are canceling it and you got it. Anyhow, if I write is equal to 250 also, the same thing gonna happen. So fine. In the same fashion, we need to implement the same thing for others also. Next, if it is between 150 and 250, the value is 7. So for that, I need to write one more logic. You see, these two are independent right now. And unlike the earlier programs, it's not a elif. It is a simple if conditions. And both are independent. So that's why I'm writing it separately. The local units, what I'm checking is, it should be greater than 150, but less than 250, right? So I will subtract the 150. Then if I have anything different, I will get to know. And the amount, what should be the amount? So here, every time I have a local amount. So I need to add all the amounts together. So for that, I need to have a amount variable also defined in the top. Instead of equal to, I need to do plus equal to. Means the existing value plus these values will be summed up. In the same fashion, existing values into 7. So we can print this local units, how much it gonna have. So it got its values. Then like, what were the remaining units? So the remaining units are like this. In the same fashion, if I go further, so if I go values between 150 and so and so, the same logic it will repeat. So for every values, so till 0, we go. For every numbers, for everything, so we need to repeat the same thing. So the conditions were like this. For everything, so we repeat the same logic. You see now, for everything I repeated. Initially, I calculated the amount. So I am taking a local value as a remote remaining units. I am subtracting from that every time. Means for the values between this thing, I am doing this calculation. For the values beyond this thing. So why I wrote independently? So means like if you give a value which is 357, it's okay. What if you give 150? In 150, I should not calculate this one, right? So what if I give 67 itself? I should not calculate all these things. So everything should be independent and overall value we should get. So that's the reason I got this example. So just go through this example. You will learn a lot. If I give same 357, you see what are the different units under which it is going. So under which, so for 356, so slab units, how many slab units? So 107 is the top slab units, next 100, 50, 40, so and so, like that. So, or else what if I give just, 89 if I give? It will come under 2 slabs only. So like that, different things will come to the different slabs. This is one thing you need to be aware of. So, they, so why we need to go for this kind of things means it can help you in a lot of ways. And also there is something called as if guarded class. You can just Google about this if guarded class. So in terms of better programming, so with less amount of hierarchy, we can do. That's the main thing. So okay, we understood a bit of the conditional operations. Next one is about the structural pattern matching. 08.
Sir, I have a question about the
Yes,
last
please.
example.
Yes, please.
So, um, in the last example, like let's say if the unit is like more than 250,
Yes,
so
yes,
why we're doing like remaining units minus 250, that line?
yes. It's a good question to ask. I want I want to do the say did separately because it's for So your question is very valid. If you are saying like beyond 250,
Yeah.
is it that you will charge for all the units into 10? No, right? Only for the
Which,
units which are beyond 250 you calculate like that. But for the
oh, I
remaining
see.
units also we need to calculate, right?
So let's say it's 257. So we're gonna charge him like 7 unit only, 7 unit per $10
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
oh, okay, okay.
Yes. It's a good question. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
257. Yeah. We charge like that. 7 units only in the top. The remaining like this. Okay. So fine. So like this. Next is into the structural pattern matching. Every condition, every logic is different. Every condition is different. Based upon the things, we need to go ahead with a particular one. So that's the most important thing. Uh, First, in the structural pattern matching, what we will learn here is it is kind of like a switch case, I would say. In Python, we don't have a word called a switch, but it is in a slight different way. Hope you remember previously we worked on some vowel character check, right? So whether some character is vowel or not, we checked. So the same thing if you want to check here using this operation, it's very simple. I hope you remember earlier we checked like this. So we took a character, we are stripped, and we are checking whether it is equal to lower cases, then it's a lower case. If it is a so and so, it's an uppercase, else it is a consonant. This is how we wrote, right? So the same thing in a meta way we can do also. So uh, what if we there is something called as a match? Like switch case we write in other languages, we have called as a match. Match actually takes a character. With that character, it works. In fact, we cannot have like a in operator within a match. Match is very smart enough. Means like so sir, this it is like a condition only, but we cannot apply like this. What are the conditions I have? Exactly I wrote in an in operator. But this match is such a thing that it will not allow the in operator. So in match condition, what we do is like whatever you have, you need to write match the same letter on which you want to do letter. So you want to match all the lowercase characters. So for each of the character, we need to use the OR operation. So here we need to use OR means like the pipe symbol, end means like ampersand symbol. So letter can be A or E or E, any of these things, right? In that case, we should go for R. So if all should be there, then end. In this particular case, if I want to match any of these things, how I implemented in a traditional if else condition, the same thing we can implement in a pattern matching like this. It is not like a switch statement because it can do much better things smartly. So if you have like multiple conditions, I can do like this. So if I have multiple conditions, I can do like this. So so if I execute right now, if I go to this directory, copy path, Python, if I give a character called K, so you got it. So if I give a character called L, you got it. If I give a character called as A, I got it. So if I give a character called as capital A, I got it. So it will identify automatically and help me right now. So that is the point of going for structural pattern matching. Okay, let me give you one more real-time example. With this, you will understand a bit better. So um, take numbers. Say Pynb, Pynb. Okay. So this time I'm writing a Jupyter notebook so that I want you to understand. By the way, I forgot to tell you that this structural pattern matching, which was like came recently itself in Python 3.10. So most of the people don't even know about it. So the point is very simple. So we write an expression in the top, and in the cases we need to write the patterns. So instead of writing like if else like that, all the patterns you can merge and we can use it. So it is similar to the switch case of other languages. So to repeat again, the same problem can be solved with if else conditions also. The same problem can be solved with pattern matching also. If I have a number in using a traditional if else conditions, if the number is greater than or equal to 0, this is how you write, right? You check if the number is greater than 0, you write it, you get it. Done. Say 10. Okay. So 123, I got it. You see, it is a positive number. It's the same thing using a pattern matching. How I can do is like, so match. What is the number? Instead of just number, earlier I just gave a number, right? Now I'm giving a condition greater than or equal to 0. Okay. Then here within the logic, I can say like case true. So like this also I can do true. Generally, when a condition is matched, it will be true, or if it else, it will be false. If the condition is true, I write like this. If the condition is false, like that. See, the same condition, I am doing it for differently. So similarly, if I go ahead with one more example, if I take a number and for that number, I want to check whether it is a even or odd. So how I do? So for that, let's say if I take a runtime input, or like for suppose any number, let's say I am taking, and I generally do like this, right? Number is even or odd. If I need to do the same thing with a structural pattern matching, instead of doing like this, so I can do like this. I write a condition. Based upon the condition, I can do it. If you evaluate right now, if I say 23, I get it. Means repeating the same logic in a different fashion so that people can understand what's happening there. If you see one more simple example, let me take a yeah, one example is our office schedule. Hope you remember earlier we worked on the office schedule. You remember we created like a office schedule where like we have seen that Monday to Saturday. So if the timetable is there, user can tell like from Monday, if they say what is the time of the day, Tuesday what is the time of the, so Wednesday like that. For these things, if I want to implement in a structural pattern matching, so earlier you did like this, right? In these particular examples, the same thing we can do in a much smarter way here. So let me take that example. What we have done, we felt like this is the optimist way. I will take this example and we try to implement further. So if I try to implement, okay, office schedule, it's a PY file. So we felt like this is the most advanced way we have using in operator and others. In structural pattern matching, we cannot have a in operation, that we are sure. Then how do you implement here is match week of the day, whatever is there. Here in the case, we need to use the word called as case. We have like multiple things. This Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. For all the values, you need to specify. Either of these things you are okay, right? You can specify. So Monday. So if you have like multiple things, you can go like this. And if you have like multiple things, you can go like this. Till Friday. So you have one timings. And for Saturday, you have another timings. For Sunday, you have another timings. So like that, for multiple things, you have one. So you write like this. So in this case, what happens? If it is Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, it will come down like this. And furthermore, if you want to, you get like the value in any other file, you are doing a title case here itself. If not, you can do the title here and you can check also. So whatever the operation you do, the expression, the end result of the expression will go to each of the things you can evaluate. So it will make your life easy. Whenever you have like a big thing, it will make your life easy. So simple examples would be like, I would give some other example to help you understand. So examples dot ipynb. If I take some example, say like I was taken some value, some p. So that p I'm taking in runtime, I want to check. So I want to give you to one new built-in function called as eval. For the first time, you are seeing something called as eval. Eval is a built-in function. I think till now you never encountered this function called as eval. Eval, what it does is that it smartly identifies what is the data and it will evaluate. So what is this, sir? Okay, till now you have the int built-in function. If you give an integer, it works. But if you give like a int as a string also, it will work. But if you give like a float, so if you give like an ordinary float, so it will work. But if you give like a float as a string, then it will throw an error. So it means like, so for that we need to go for float. Then we need to give for float, it works. So for other things also it works. But so there is something called as eval. For that you give any data type, it will understand what is its data type and it will realize. So if I give like a for the float, so for the float of none, if I give, it will throw an error. Whereas eval is smart enough. You give an integer, it works. To give a list of all the things for you in one shot. I'm doing it. Eval of one integer, eval of like, so minus 0 point so and so. So you give a floating point value. I give like a uh, eval of, number as a string. So I give like a floating point as a string. So I give like a eval of something. So whatsoever. So I give like a eval of float boolean, like a true. I give like a eval of none. Eval is such a smart that it can evaluate anything. So that's the reason people don't want to use it. Indirectly tell you. So, yeah, eval argument must be a string, not bytes or so and so. What is saying? Yes, eval will take everything as a string. So whatever you, it will take like a string and do the operation. It will recognize everything like a string and it will do. That's a one thing mistake to say. So it will take everything as a string. So within that string, whether the value is like any of the things, it will evaluate it. If I give like in quotes as a string, in quotes like a none, in quotes like anything if I give, it will understand what is the data and it will do. In fact, the input built-in function that we are using so has this kind of smartness. They in fact removed it because it can affect the SQL injections and others. Why I came to this? I want to give you one example. Some value I want to take, say like some p is equal to eval of input of. So whatever I give, it should evaluate and get the data type and get it. So enter something. Okay. So if I say like, get the value of p, comma data type of p. If I execute right now, if I give 42 or 34, it is saying it's an integer. So if I execute again, if I give some string, of course, for strings, it should be, first defined that variable. So it is again, I'm defining. If I say none, what is it saying? It's of none type. So if I give like a floating point value also, it's evaluating and making it floating. So what I'm trying to say is that it is smart enough to understand what is the data type and respond in accordance. For this particular thing, if I pass like this or structural pattern matching, you understand now? For the same p I'm giving, if the p is equal to 1, say it's a number 1. If it is 42, I have like multiple conditions like this. And observe for the first time, if value is none of them, there is a last condition called as a default condition. We didn't use till now. It's like a else condition. We can have any number of conditions, but there will be a default condition also. So down the line, you will learn about the classes, sorry, functions. You can see that when you learn functions, you will make use of it. I created a small function. So based upon the number you pass, it will return a particular status. You see, for each of the number I pass, I can write it. Instead of I writing a separate if else conditions, this is a smart way of doing. So this structural pattern matching. You see, if it is 401 or 403, I want to do one thing. If it is either of these two, I want to do something else. So like that, I have different use cases. For those use cases, I want to respond differently. So, or else, if you see in this education example, you'll understand. So if I have a p, so int as number means like if it is an integer or a string. So like that, I want to respond. So then like I want to do something. So whatever user has given, if it is like that, if see in this example, so some string I have given. As the value is a string, it has gone inside this one. If the value is like a integer, it will go the other way. So like that, based upon the data type, it is going. So the more you learn about Python, you will come back to analyze it further. So not only this, you can go for different kinds of examples of the structural pattern matching. With this, I want to stop. And like we will go for something called as oops. So these are like different ways of placing the conditions. As you know the conditions, now the next point is about loops. How do you create the loops? What are the different ways of loops? How it works for us? If you see here in the loops, coming to the loops, in every language there will be two types of loops. One is the for loop, other one is the main while loop. So let's go for the first for loop. If I go to the for loop, you will understand that IPYNV. If I go, fine. Generally, every language will have for loops. But across the languages, when I have studied, there are two types of for loops which are supported in any language. So there is like something like this. If you see, okay, yeah. So in if you go for a traditional C language type, where you can see like a for of int a equal to 0, a less than so and so, a plus plus or a minus minus. So that kind of for loop is not supported in Python. In Python, only one kind of for loop is supported, where so a in range of so and so means you give an object, the object should be valid, and you need to pass the values. Then in that case, it will work. So Python supports that kind of for loop only. So means like the value should be valid and it should be passing through it. So, but if you pass to any of the integer or float, we cannot do. If I say for I in, so why every time I, it doesn't mean I, but if I say for I in, say I, this is how you apply for loop. Okay, so it's in a markdown format. You see this example, I am doing like this. So what's happening? It is throwing an error that, hey, int object is not iterable. Similarly, if I say for I in 123 point so and so, so print of I. What is saying? Float object is not iterable. So for I in none, so print of I. What is saying? None object is not iterable. And similarly, if I go for I in, say true, print of I. What is saying? Boolean object is not iterable. Means what is this concept of iterable and what is not iterable? So here I mentioned clearly that the basic objects like int, float, none, boolean, these are all non-iterable objects. So we cannot apply for loop on them. Whereas iterable objects means string, range, list, tuple, dictionary, iterators, generators, these are all iterables. We can apply. You see the same example of a true we cannot apply, but if I take the same example of true and if I convert to a string, say if I place a quotes around it, it becomes a string. If I apply for loop, I can apply. So because string is a data type which we can apply directly, we can do it. So in the same fashion, for the same string, if you have a number, say here, earlier you have a number, you cannot apply, right? But if I convert that to a string, I can apply. Instead of I making entire codes, I can convert to str built-in function and I can pass to it and I can execute, including dot you got as a single character. So like this, we can expect any character and we can apply. Not only that, we can work on a typical traditional string characters and also work. And why every time I, it doesn't mean generally that's a common notion across the languages. When for looping they do I, but we can use anything. If I say ch or like character char in so the same Python, I can apply print of char. I get the characters. So this is how I apply for loop. For everything I can apply for loop. So stated that it is a string or like it is any iterable. So till now we are applying only for the strings. But what about the other data types? We told like there is something called as range. Range is a value generator. So range, you know the concept. If you give the range for a number, so why I every time, range of say 9, it will generate the values from 0 through 8, right? That's the default. And if you print number, you can do it. So when I'm doing the print, so instead of just printing a number, maybe like I want to do something else. So into 2 or something. If I want to generate sequences, I can do like this, right? So I can do many operations like this. So I can apply on for loop. And like this, I can apply on multiple things. And if I go on further, when you are working, the most important point I want to touch base. One second. Yeah. So as we are working in this for loop, there is one more interesting point in the for loop that we can learn. When you are working on a for loop, say I'm working on a string for each character in Python programming. If I want to print the each character, I can print it. So during the process, if you want to get the loop count, like which character and is thing, then we need to have the loop count, like some variable outside defined. And for each of the things, I need to define like and loop count, comma this one, and I can say like loop count plus equal to 1. So now if you see in this example, each time you have created a loop count, it is doing each time for you, right? So you are taking an extra variable and looping. As they observed this is the most common problem everyone is facing, they came up with another one function called as a enumerate. With enumerate, what you can do, instead of you creating a loop count and looping over it, you can just execute it, where you need to use the enumerate built-in function on the existing function. Generally, for loop we can apply only on iterables. What are the iterable on which you are doing for loop? You need to do the enumerate. Then you need not have this extra thing. So within the each character itself, you get two values. So within the each character, when you're getting, it will get two values. Till now, when you do any for loop on a string, you get one character at a time. But this time you get the loop index also and this value also together. And hope you know this concept of unpacking. Unpacking means if you have two values, you can assign two things, right? Means like, if you have, so one value if you are assigning to two things, this is an assignment operator. So if you have like two values, this is called as unpacking. Unpacking means like if you have two values equal to two variables equal to two values, the first value will go to the first one, second value will go to the second one. Hope this is what concept you know. And of course, Python doesn't support the other way. Means like one variable, two variables on one side and one value on the side. It doesn't support. This is called as a typical assignment operator. But this concept is called as unpacking, where equal number of values and variables are there on either side. Why I'm telling this concept is, as every time you are getting two values in this concept, instead of assigning to a single variable, you can assign to two things. Means I can assign to a, say, the loop index here also, or loop index or loop count. What are the variable? If I do like this, I get the things. So as I got like each time two values, it's a tuple. I am assigning to two variables such that I got all the values. So in this way, I can do whatever I want. If I want a better way of doing, I can write it now. So maybe like, I can write, so much smarter way. So I got like these things. And for this, why every time the value is starting from zero in itself, I can start the value from something else, right? This enumerate supports with me the extra value, which is like the start value. If I give like a start value of -3, so now the see here values, the loop count is starting from -3, -2, -1, 0, so and so. Or else, if the value I am starting with, say, in a positive, say 40, 67, if I give, you see, the values are starting from 67 till 84. Means this loop index, when you're looping, you can give any number and we can work at the same time. So in Python, so I told, right, this for loop we can apply not only on this strings and for range, we can apply on a list also. List means like all the values are in square braces. If I have the values like this, I can loop on it. Similarly, as I can apply on a loop on it, obviously if I place a enumerate, I get the values, right? So how I do? So I can say like, index I can do, and I can pass a enumerate. Enumerate. If I pass, I get the values both together. Index comma enumerate. So every time I get two values. In the same fashion, when I'm doing, so I can do the operations in a slight better way. I can do something like this. As each one in one only, as it is getting two values, I can do operations like that. So, or like, when I'm doing like a two values separately, I can specify like this, that whatever I want. And during the process also, I can give any of my offset. If I give an offset of -50, it will start all the values from -50 onwards. So like this things can happen. And similarly, you can perform these for loops and enumerations on the range object also. Means take a value of range, some 9 or 0 to 9 or something, and apply enumerate. You get the enumerate there also. It will be fine. So fine. So let me introduce a small game. So till now we have made some fun. So let's go ahead and introducing something new. So there is something called as game .ipy py file. So I want to create. Till now you know the concept of escape sequences, right? Escape sequences means these are the characters which will not print, but their actions will be printed shown. So to understand this clearly, I gave you three examples. So just a name, Uday Prakash, and like /t and /n. In these three examples, if you can notice, If I go to this directory, Python, you see what happened? In the first case, it printed as these. In the second case, you got some white space in middle. That's a tab space. In the third case, you got in the new line. The Prakash came in the new line. So the slash t and slash n are making those advantages. At the same time, there is one more options. Like this slash t slash n, there are other escape sequences also, like slash r. What is the slash r doing means? It will try to, like a typewriter, it will do. So once the word Uday will be printed, on top of it, it will try to overwrite. So it's very easy for you to understand, but let me execute and show you. How it actually works is, the first I will explain the first one. First, it will display Uday. On top of it, it should print Prakash. So it will overwrite like this: P R A K A S H. By the time it is overwriting, there is nothing left for you to see. That's the reason when you did Uday and Prakash, in the output you got like only Prakash. The reason being it overwrited entirely. Whereas in the second example, you see how it works. First I have Prakash. The first word is bid. Then I want to do slash r, means from the starting I want to overwrite. It has gone to the first character and it is trying to overwrite. First U, next D, H, A, Y. So it's only this much. That's the reason you got Udayish. Do you understand? So means the moment slash r came, it goes to cursor will go to the starting of the thing and it will try to overwrite. So let me give you two more examples. In this case, what will happen? First, all these numbers will be printed and it will go to the starting and say like D, O, G. So if you see the example, so you'll understand the same thing. You see, D, O, G, so and so, so and so. So this is the concept of the slasher. Based upon these things, I want to do something. I want to create a very big and large data set. For that, I did something like this. You see here. So what I'm doing is range of -100 to 10,000. So 10 lakh something. It's a big number I'm generating. And for this data set, if you want to just get all the values, how do you get the values? From this data set, you just do a for loop and you can get all the values. Just if I execute this one, uh, if execute here, how much big numbers are there? Earlier in Python 2, the range object used to create those many values the moment you do range. So all these values need to store in memory only, right? That's a Python used to crash a lot. So that's the reason they came up with smart solutions like this. This range object will not create all the values by default, but when you are asking each time, it will go and create one. That's called as a lazy evaluation or on-demand computation. So due to that, any large number also you can create, but you need not worry. Okay, I created these values. This fine. And what if I do a enumerate on these things? Okay, if I go with like the next option, if I apply on the enumerate. So for index comma number in like this. If I go for index, what I'll get? I get the loop index. Say like I am saying like instead of index, I want to mention loop index of this data set. I want to print the loop index, comma, so the number. Both the things I want to print. If I execute further, did you see each of the number I am getting and loop index also I am getting? I would assume that I don't want the number, but I want only the loop index. Till now, every time you're using all the things. But for the first time, I will show you something interesting. Say here there is a number which I don't want to use. In that case, you need to replace with an underscore. Anytime if you get something and if you don't want to use it, you can replace with an underscore. So this underscore, how it works, I will tell. Say, if I want to calculate the percentage completed, say totally there were like these many values, how much completed, that I want to know. So totally how much are there? Totally means length of this data set I'm calculating. So percentage completed means in this total values, how much need to be done and how much was done. If I want to evaluate that, don't you think I need to do like this? The loop index 1 by 100, 2 by 100, let's say assume a total are 100. So the first one means 1 by 100, 2 by 100, 3 by 100, like that, right? So that 1 into 100, if I do percentage, I'll get. So that is what I'm doing right now. So every time I'm printing the loop index, so the total value which was completed. So instead of just displaying like this, I want to display like this. You see now in this example. Okay. So now we can see smartly something happening. So the total data set is having this much value and how much percentage it was completed, it is showing. So though if you see here clearly, you cannot understand certain things because this percentage is showing like very big number. Rather, if you can make it smart by rounding off this percentage, we can round off. So round off to 2 digits we can do. So for that, like I can go in the next line. I can do round off to 2 digits. So this time, if I execute, if I close, stop it, and if I execute again, did you see now things are much better, right? You can see that percentage you are understanding. So for each of the loop index, the total data set is this much, and this is a percentage executing. Now it's clear. So you understood in the total data set how much was done. So, and if you want to go further, say every time you want to get the value, hope you remember there is one option called as slash r, means after executing every line, you want to overwrite on the existing line. For that, there is something called a slash r. You know what I'm doing slash r means? I can give slash r everywhere. If I do slash r, it will go to the existing line and it will try to overwrite. If I execute again, it makes no difference. The reason being, first if you want to do a slash r, means overwrite, first everything should come in the same line. So for a print, by default it will go to the new line. If you want to avoid the new line, you write end equal to like this. If I do end equal to like this, empty, so then everything will come in the same line. Then if I do slash r, then it will have its effect. Did you see now what's happening? If I clear the screen, if I execute it, did you observe what's happening? Every time it is updating on the same line. Did you see smartly? In fact, most of the time when you're doing any module installations and so, they will do like this only. So this is how it works. So you see here, it was updated. So it is like overwriting the existing value. So if you want like something more better, rather than why you want to know the total data set length every time. Generally, when you install any software, what do you expect? How much completed? That's it, right? You are not interested in all these results. So for that, I can write like this. So what I am doing, say percentage completed that I want to display. So if this slash r need to work, we need to have end equal to empty. Means it should not go to the new line. Now in this case here, how much percentage was completed? You can, fine granularly see what's the percentage completed. So this is how like a typical, progress bar implementation. And you can take a small assignment further to implement like this. For the same progress bar implementation, you can go one step ahead. Instead of giving this percentage numbers completed, you give this one. Every time this bar should come. So if it is less than 10%, one bar should come. 2 means this much, 3 means this much, like that it should come. So give it a try. It's not that difficult. You can just start implementing. Hope it's clear for everyone. So there are like different kinds of progress bar implementations, but this is interesting. Next, going further, we have some option. If I go for the next option, so this time I'm going to the IPython notebook. This time I want to work on the while loops. See, every language will have a while loop implementation. Recently, new language like Go language is not supporting while loop at all, but like there are some languages which are supporting. If I go one step ahead, in a typical while loop, how the syntax works is we need to give some initialization. Based upon that condition, we need to loop, and how, to go towards that condition, we need to pass. I would say it's easy to work with a for loop because if object is ready and we can loop on it. But I would say that it is in terms of performance, while loop is much better. So if, in for loop, you generate a variable, you loop over it. Whereas in while loop, it will do the things based upon the conditions given. Means let's take a simple example. Incrementing loop with increment first. So first I take a value called as I. So it is like initialization. First I took a value of I equal to 0. So then like I want to, how many times you want to loop and in what time you need to enter the condition. For that we need to write the condition. So I equal to 0 and I should be less than 5. So if I is 0 and it should become 5, then should I increment or decrement? I should increment. So based upon this initialization condition only, we should write the increment or decrement. If I do a reverse way, it will go to infinite. I'll show you that example also. So based upon this, if I want to print the values, if I want to print, so I wrote some logic. Not every time your logic will be printing, right? You have your own logic. But still then, if I execute it, okay, I think it has gone to the markdown. Let me remove it. Okay. You see in this example, you got all the values. So in this particular condition, if I go in a reverse direction, initialization is 0, condition is 5. Instead of incrementing towards 5, if I go for a negative, means decrementing, then it will go to infinite loop. So because like it will never be, so 5, so no problem. It will go on infinitely. So that's the reason as a beginner, you should be careful about. So as a beginner, earlier I used to also be like you. I used to prefer for loops a lot. But slowly, when we understood more about conditioning, how to write it, so while loops becomes more performant. Similarly, if I go for one more example, incremental loop with increment last. Increment last means the same above logic what I did. So I do again, but slightly I will change the way that I have given the things. You see, I have a initialization, same like in the first case, I have initialization. Here also I have initialization. I have a condition. Here also I have a condition. So I have a print here. So this is one more interesting point. Some people will do the increment or decrement in the starting. Some people will do in the last. And it's not a people's choice, it's a logic choice, I would say. The reason being, if I do an increment first and then print, for the same conditions, I got values from 1 to 5. If I do a print first, then increment, for the same values, I got values from 0 through 4. So that's the reason when you're writing a logic, be careful of how you are writing something. And for the same thing, if I go one step ahead smartly, for the same example, I do one more thing here. So increment last only I am doing, but here the condition is less than or equal to. Instead of just less than, I am doing less than or equal to. You see now what happened? For the same conditions, as you made a slight change in the condition, you got values from 0 through 5. So it is what I'm concluding is you should be careful about what you are doing. So every condition, everything can make a difference. One more example to say, decrementing loop, if I say, with decrementing first. So first I am taking a value of say y every time I say j is equal to 5. So you want to decrement. Say I'm saying like j should be greater than 0. You should not say less than 0 because it will never go, right? So greater than 0. So I'm saying like as the value is 5 and it should go towards 0, I should do a minus equal to 1. So then I am doing like a print of j. If you want like, so end equal to, you can give like this so that everything will come in the same line. You got all the values like this. In the same fashion, in the same logic, if I want to do the decrementing last, means I take the same example, I paste it here. Instead of decrementing first, I do it in the next line. If you execute, you see instead of values from 4 through 0, I'm getting from 5 through 1. And in the same fashion, if I go one step ahead, so here in this case it's a so greater than. In this case it's a greater than the condition. So if I do like a slight change like in the previous with like greater than or equal to 0, so greater than or equal to 0 for the same values, you got values from 5 through 0 instead of 1. So that's the reason when you're doing any loops, you should be careful in what you're doing. So let me give one practical example. I think there you can understand better. One example I do is like the multiplication table. So let's take a good example. Multiplication tables, right? So we work. If I need to implement the multiplication table, let me do something interesting. If I need to first implement two independent for loops, so how I do is like, I say like, first equal to 0. So while uh, first less than 5, I'm taking a number. Every time I want to do like, first plus equal to 1. So print of first. Okay. I have one condition like this. Okay. Similarly, if I have one more loop, second is equal to 0. So while second less than 5, second plus equal to 1. So print of f of second is equal to. Like that I have two conditions. If I implement now, so if I go to the terminal, second, so the terminal again. Okay. So Python is so and so. If I execute, you see the first table executed and the second table executed. This is fine. So two independent tables are there, fine. But what if I want to combine these two together? If I play empty print and I'm copying the same two tables and I'm pasting it here now. And indentation plays a very crucial role. If I give one tab, it will go inside. So observe the difference right now when I'm executing. The first, initially first executed only 5 times, this executed 5 times. But this time see here, for each of the first, the second executed these many times. To understand much better things, rather than displaying here. So I know I will display here itself. So this one on both together, then you will understand much better. So every time it is executing, the second one is also executing. So let me give a slash t. Okay, then you will understand much better. You see, for each of the first loop, the second loop is executing 5 times. Means this one executed 5 times, this one executed 5 times. But this entire thing's executed 5 into 5, it is 25 times. Did you all understand now how these things are working? So to understand better more, so as we understood that these both are executing together, if I want to print them together, say like, first I know, the second I know, I am just displaying the values. If I execute, you see each of the values is printing, right? And as it is everything like a print statement, in a print statement, I can write these hashes and I can write this equal to. So, and I can also do some multiplication also do it, right? This is all possible in a typical for loop. I executed. What are the values I have? I am getting it. And if you want to do the same thing in a much better way, so I can also do using the print statements. So as everything I want to convert to a string and do, as everything is not strings, I can convert to a strings also. String of first into string of so and so. Like I'm multiplying everything to a strings and doing in this way also I can do. So the same problem I can solve with a so whole string formatting. Whole string formatting means what? Instead of I doing everything, I can do like a string format. I give one format percentile d. First one should be an integer into percentile d. The second one also should be an integer is equal to percentile d. The third one should be an integer and give all the three here. First, second, comma, first into second. This is what we expected. You give like this also it works. Oh, you give like percentile we need to give. Yeah. If I give percentile, what happened here? Oh, we need to pass is in braces. When you have more than one value, you need to pass as a braces. You see now it worked, right? So this is whole style formatting. And within the whole style formatting also, we can give the better format. So we can give like for the first digit 2 digits, second one 2 digits, third one 3 digits. So now formatting will be much better. You see, compared to this one, how is this format? Don't you think it's much better? Using whole style formatting. So for the same thing, we can also do with the new style formatting too. For the new style formatting means what? You can take the examples. So using like you give the percentile. Sorry, in new style means what? You don't give the percentile. You just give the placeholders. That's it. It will go and execute. So when you're giving the placeholders also, we can specify the positions. So what are the options that we have learned till now? I'm making use of all the things. And also when you're doing, we can add some formatting also that, hey, we need to reserve 2 digits or 3 digits for something. If I give for the first one 2 digits, second one 2 digits, third one 3 digits, if I mention, it will execute like that. Or lastly, if I give like, something, if I want to have some kind of zero padding or something, I can specify that. So you see here, instead of two positions, if I say 0 2, so 2 digits will be reserved, but zero padding will happen. In the same fashion, so if you want to do something else, so if you just give like positions like this, it will reserve and do it. Or lastly, using f strings also we can do. So using f strings means like in new steel. So f string means what? You write everything there itself. As the variables were already defined, we can make the best use of it. Or like we can here also we can reserve the spaces and to get the things much better. So these are the various learnings we did. So I'm making use of all of them together. So, and for every table, when you're printing, you want some kind of space. You see now, if I write a print, now if you see what will happen, after every line you got a white space. But see carefully, if I give one tab before, means after this for loop, entire for loop, this print will happen. Now you see the difference. The same print, one statement below, it will be different. One statement that side, it will be different. If I write like this, it is outside this for loop. So outside is while loop. So if you write other way, it is inside this while loop. So rather than that, instead of just a print, I can also make like something. So I can write like something. So means like after every table, you want to make some gaps. You can write it. Or instead of this gap, if you want to, write with something else also. So as like you instead of just writing this, I can write something like this, say equal to into multiply into string. This is called a string repetition. So like that you can do. And not only this, you can now mature this code. Why you are doing only till this much? You can define some constant and we can tell. So you can define a constant is equal to 5. So this max table, that you give to each of them. So this constant you give to each of them. If I give the same thing, it works again, but for different values. Due to that, if I give like some 8 right now, so it will generate till 8 values. So if I give like a 10 right now, it will generate till 10. Or if I give like a 12 table, it will generate till 12 table. So hope it's fine. So I am creating something generic such that it's easy to work. This is a real-time example, right? So based upon these things, I have some assignments for you. The same example you can modify to get the values from one table till 10 table, but the value should be in a reverse order. So from 10 table to 1, so like 10 ones are so and so till 10 ones are. So like that for every table in a reverse way. The logic is very simple. The inner for loop, you need to reverse it. So instead of printing the values from 0 through 10, it should do from 10 to 0 or like whichever value to 0. So in a reverse way. So that you need to change. Whereas the second one, so displaying the tables in a horizontal way. I also told you already how to do zero padding. By using the string formatting itself, we can do. But the beauty is like you need to place all of them like this in the same line. In each line, you need to get like this. How to get it? So you see here, the first for loop is changing. First for loop is changing. The second for loop is same for all. So like this, you think how to display it. So I gave you the hints also. So try to complete by tomorrow, because this is, if you can do this one, half of the problems will be solved. In fact, hope it's clear. So, okay. So then like one last example I will give today is that the number guessing game. So we already worked on this number guessing game earlier also. There are different kinds of smart strategies we have gone. Hope you remember like the number guessing game I told you. When we worked on a typical things, I told that, hey, we get these values from runtime. And if the number is less than that, we say reduce your guess or increase your guess. That's how we say, right? This is what we learned till now. But for this one, if you want to make sure further, so we have like different kinds of strategies. So here, every time in the previous example, what I told is that the user has the capability to execute it. Say, to give a simple recap of what we did. If the lucky number is 67, the user has given some 23. It is saying increase your guess. Now user understood values between 23 and 100. User executed, it is 45. Increase your guess. 56. Increase your guess. 66. Increase your guess. User give like 78. Decrease your guess. So 70. So reduce your guess. Now user understood values between 66 and 70. User gives 67. You guess it correctly. Means how many options user has taken? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if the user guesses in lesser number of guesses, he should get more score, right? More the score, more the number of guesses, less score. So if I can do like that, it's easy. Or also like, I can limit it within a number of user limits also I can do. So in this particular case, there is no limit. The user can do any number of times. If you want to limit the user, like how many times the user can do, so we need to have some kind of conditions. For that, I can go for something called as attempts. So attempt is equal to 0. So while attempt is less than 5, say like my attempts limit is 5. So attempt plus equal to 1. So whatever the logic I have, that logic, instead of doing like this, I need to place within it. If I go ahead, you see now what happens? I'm taking attempt equal to 0, less than 5, attempt plus equal to 0. So within that I'm doing. So now what happens? The user will execute it, guessing game. So he gives like 23. Hey, increase your guess. Oh, sorry, I did mistake. Okay, 23. Increase your guess. 34. Increase your guess. 45. Increase your guess. 56. Increase your guess. 67. Increase your guess. Oh, you guessed it correctly. In the fifth attempt, you did. But like in the next example, if I give 34 every time, hey, so it has given like 5 attempts and it is doing right. If you are able to do successfully, it's fine. But if you are not able to do successfully, it is saying so. So finally, at every attempt, it is executing, and at the last attempt, you are getting this answer. So this is better, right? You are now able to control the number of attempts user is doing. If somehow you are able to do, fine. If not, maybe you can add a one statement saying that, hey, so sorry you failed to do in all the attempts. If I execute right now, if a user gives the same 23 every time, say sorry you failed to guess in all the 5 attempts. It's easy to understand. So means like now if they use increase the attempt limit also things will work. Now similarly, one more thing I want to tell to you. There is one interesting point which you never even thought of. While loop with else condition. Using that we can make the things much more smarter. How to do is like I take the same example, this example, and I want to work further. So and here the point is like if the user has executed all the loops, instead of we attempting, we can do it in a much smarter way. See, this condition will execute every time. Instead, if I say else here, so this else will execute in the for loop when all the for loop was done. So this is what about a for loop. Instead of you executing this, so it will do on its own. So we can learn more about this in the next class. But what it happens is like in while loop, if it is destined for 5 loops, if all the 5 loops were executed, then this else will execute. So in this case, every loop it will check for this condition, but it executes in the last. So that's the difference. So with this, like I want to stop.